Hey folks, Josh Hager here at Bearded Bee Works. We are on our way to do a cutout this afternoon. I did a cutout yesterday evening. There wasn't much to it. Just a small, and maybe a hive of bees twice the size of a basketball. I didn't record it. There wasn't much to it there. It was in the soffit of the house, and just pulled the soffit down and got the bees out. Maybe a 45-minute extraction. But went to a second location yesterday afternoon, and I had received some information secondhand that a contractor was there doing some work, found the bees, and they had tore the wall out, and the bees were exposed and ready to remove. Well, I got there, and that was not the case. They hadn't done anything. The wall was still intact. So I did pull some siding off, and they were in the floor of the second story, or the ceiling of the first story. It's on a two-level house, and they had a lift there and everything from where they were doing the construction work. I would have preferred to went in from the inside and got them. They had hardwood flooring on the second floor, so that wasn't an option. But I could have went in from the ceiling on the second story, but I think there was shiplap on that, so they didn't want to remove any of that. So I ended up having to cut a floor joist or a seal. It was a 2x12, and I really didn't want to cut that because that's a pretty major structural component of the house, but the contractor was good with it. That's what he wanted to do, and he's going to repair it when I'm done. So like I said, we're heading up there now to try to get these bees out. So we'll be there in just a little bit. Alright folks, so we made it here to the house. There's the area that I removed the siding from. These bees were pretty aggressive yesterday. The contractor was getting bumped just working from the ground here, and I cut a piece out, you'll see here in a second, to expose these bees, and I got about 13 or 14 stings where they're getting through the mesh on my breathable gloves there. So get set up and get up there and show you what we got. Alright folks, we got everything set up. I got everything on the lift. You'll see here I didn't record that for time's sake, but I'll get you mounted on the lift here, and we're going to head up there. Alright, here we go. So here's what we got. This thing reaches inside there from about here all the way over to here, and runs, I don't know, 2.5 foot deep or so, just an estimate. I'm gonna start vacuuming what I got here and just start cut and comb as I go. Anything, I got a couple buckets over here. Anything that is good, like some honey we can save, will go in this bucket. Anything that scrap is going to go in this bucket over here, comb that we're not going to be able to use. So we'll put honey and stuff in here. Scrap comb that doesn't have any brood or anything in it here. Then I'll set the brood combs aside to frame up after we get it all out. So here we go, we're going to do a little vacuuming. We're on this lift here, so it's a little wobbly. Sorry about the footage, but Before I go too far here, I'm gonna spray a little bee quick where I don't want these bees to go. Or it's actually honey bandit. I'm gonna spray it in these areas I don't want these bees at. That way we can keep them out of there. After I go so far, I've got a broom handle and a rag, and I'm gonna run a rag of honey bandit back in there to keep them bees from running down that joist. But I'm gonna vacuum and cut a little bit before I do that. We'll be looking for the queen as we go. Hopefully we can find her, not back her up, but she'll probably be okay if we do. I like to get my queen cage handy just in case. That way I know where it's at. queen cell right there. I'm not sure if it's capped or emerged. I can't see it yet. So as I'm pulling this comb out, I'm looking first on this area here, because if that queen's there, she's going to run to the back side. They run to the darkness. They don't like the light. So you've got this part in your hand. You can check it at any time. If the queen's on there, she's going to stay there. But I check this area right here first to make sure that my queen's not there. If she is, I can grab her up real quick. I'm not seeing her yet, but we are just starting to get to some brood. But if you can see that, we've got an emerged queen cell right there. So I don't know where this hive is, if it's swarmed or superseded, but we may not have an active queen here. The only thing I'm seeing right now is some pretty good sized larvae. So we'll just have to go a little deeper to figure out whether we have a laying queen or not, if we can find some eggs, or this hive could be in between queens right now. So I am seeing a few eggs in here, so that's a good sign. That queen may have made it back, depending on how long ago she emerged. It could be the new queen, or they may not have kicked the old queen out yet if it's a supersedure, so we'll see as we go. Alright, so I got some bees running back in here. They're going down that pipe right there. So I'm going to put some bee quick back in there to try to run them back this way, or honey bandit. So like I said, I brought a broom handle and a towel. I'm going to tape this on there. I'm going to spray it down real good with honey bandit. And then I'm going to run this back in there. Try to get it back behind where those bees are already at. I'm going to rub it around in there. I'm hoping it'll push them bees back this way. Looks like it's working. You can see in there or not. They're starting to come back this way now. So maybe that'll keep them up front where we're working here. And they won't get back in there where I can't get to them. Back to vacuuming. Alright, well, we've got everything but the foragers that are out, and they're coming back still. I done resorted to vacuuming bees out of midair, so I'm gonna go down, get a little drink of water, and see if these bees will cluster up here somewhere, and I'll come back up and try to vacuum some more. I found very little brood in that that colony there in the comb. I found a few eggs and larvae as I first started, and then it was just pure honey. Looks like they had swarmed or superseded during the peak of the flow, and they probably packed the hive out. Something to watch for in your own hives. If you do have a swarm or supersedure, it's best if you have a nuke or something with the spare queen, go ahead and get her back in there and get her laying before they pack that nest back up. So that's what it looks like they did here. Not sure if we have a queen or not. Like I said, I did find a few eggs. Most of the bees were clustered on that last piece of comb, and when I started to take it down, they all fell off, so they were on the back side of it. So I had to vacuum those up. If we had a queen, she was probably back there. She usually runs to the back of the hive. The honey bandit on the pole here worked really well. Those bees were running down this pipe, heading back in there. I sprayed some on there, stuck it back in there, and here they come back at me. And then the same thing when the cluster fell, some of those bees started running down the floor joists back towards the back, and I just scooted this over to this side, and like I said, it worked really well. So that's might be a helpful tip for somebody. But like I said, gonna go down, get a little drink of water, and come up here and see if they're clustering anywhere. You couldn't see a while ago, I did a little vacuuming over here, but they've been clustering on this board right here and trying to go in here, but I've sprayed the bee quick in there as well, or the honey bandit. So I am going to vacuum up these few last bees here before I go down. When you're running a bee vac, you just want it to suction just enough to pick the bees up. You don't want to beat them up too bad when they go through the hose. I'm going to shoot a little bee or honey bandit in a few places that I don't want them to go. They're still trying to go back in here. There is insulation right here that's keeping them, I think, from going into that section over there. So I think that's helping out. You can see that there. This spot right here, there's insulation back in there. That's helping out with that. So we've got a lot of the bees. Like I said, we're gonna go down and take a little break and come back up and continue. Well, it looks like our lift is dead, so that's interesting. So we're currently stranded. May have to have the homeowner come plug me up. Hey, I think the lift died on me. Well, it's plugged into my bee vac instead of the lift, and it says the battery's dead and it won't do anything. You know where it plugs in at down there? So you can unplug my bee vac here and plug me up there and see if I can get back down. side panel, is that not on that side panel there, is it? Yeah, is there a plug down there? I see a wire. There's a oh, there it is, right up front. Come around this leg right here. It's hanging out right there.
Now what do you want me to unplug?
So just unplug that black cord from the orange one and plug it in.
Do anything now?
Now let's see.
When he said to do that, it was for you.
No, nothing yet.
They call to turn this thing
You shouldn't have to. That changes like whether you operate from the ground or up here in the bucket, or it turns it off.
here. Okay, let's put it back up. Turn it back. It's blinking 3 times and it's going off.
Yeah, that's what this one up here is doing too. I got the same symbol, I think. Well, I think I've got most of the bees out of there.
You got a bunch around.
Yeah, I was going to come down and get a drink and let them settle down and come back and back again. Once they kind of landed like they're doing, once they kind of cluster up.
I don't mind turning this, but I'm not sure what it
You can try. You see what it's on right now? Is it's on the blue, right?
Huh?
Yeah, as long as we get it back on the blue.
I think you gotta turn it off and then it will start it up. is what I
Okay,
think.
that's fine. We can try that.
How big was
It wasn't as big as I thought it was. It was about that wide and probably about that deep. So a little bit smaller, but still pretty good size. There wasn't very much brood. I found a little bit of brood, but it was almost all honey, the whole thing. Like the babies, how they reproduce, it's like baby bees. They start as an egg, the queen lays an egg, then they turn into a larva, and then they pupate and they come out as an adult.
So is that a good thing or not?
Well, I found some queen cells, some emerged queen cells, so it looked like they either swarmed, which part of them left with the old queen, or they were trying to replace the queen. And we just went through the main part of the honey flow where they collect most of their honey for the winter. And I would say whenever they replaced that queen, while they were waiting on her to come back, they filled up the brood nest where she would normally lay. They just packed it full of honey. So I found just a few eggs and a few larvae. So there's probably a queen there, but she just didn't have anywhere to lay because they had filled everything up with honey.
So that's how many things were there?
It's hard to say. Probably, I'd say between 30, probably 20 and 30,000 probably.
What time is it?
It wasn't as big as I first thought it was. It looked like it went further back when I was looking yesterday afternoon.
Is the old one still in here?
The old,
Tell me what about the old one?
the first combs were older, and as I went back, they were newer combs, but I got everything out.
I kind of thought maybe the older one went back years time.
Well, they would reuse that comb. Like, so if that first set of bees, first hive dies or whatever happens, the next swarm that moves in, they'll reuse that old comb.
So what happens? You have one queen per hive?
You just have one queen per hive typically.
Per hive.
Yeah. So this,
What was it you pulled out? That was comb, right? Or
Yeah.
is that a hive?
yeah, this is, well, it's the same thing. This is that's honeycomb right there. So this comb, this is all honey here, but they also use this to lay eggs in to reproduce. It's to lay an egg, which, like I said, will turn to larva and then a pupa. And but they had just packed this whole thing out with honey, so that it looked like there is a queen. The first couple frames or combs I pulled out had a few eggs on them,
Yeah.
but almost the whole hive was just packed full of honey.
Well, so once the other queen, if you can't have the two queens, so one has to be home herself.
Well,
Go
so
away?
there's a couple things. If the bees sense that there's something wrong with the queen, if she's not doing her job like she's supposed to,
Yeah.
they will replace her. So they'll build queen cells and they'll, kill her or kick her out of the hive. The other way is they swarm. So if they outgrew this cavity, which they got a lot of room to grow, so, but, like if they just don't have room for the queen to lay brood, or they get congested, they will, the old queen and like 50, somewhere around 50% of the bees will leave and go find another cavity to build in. An old, a tree, a house, an old, place where an old beehive used to be. So either they replaced her or they swarmed, and like I said, while they were waiting on that queen to come back, because they have to go out on a mating flight. They emerge a virgin queen, they have to go on a mating flight, and they will mate outside of the hive, and then they come back and start laying eggs. So that takes a few days, several days for them to emerge, go on a mating flight, come back, and start laying eggs, and they filled the brood nest up with honey before she get back.
So when she's gone out to mate, now does her mates die?
Yes, they do.
And she can mate with multiple mates.
That's correct. Yep,
When they die, so if these stings you, does it die?
it does. So that stinger's barbed, and when it pulls out, the venom sac stays with the stinger in you, and then the bee ends up dehydrating because it can't hold fluid in its body anymore because the stinger dripped out.
So they know when they sting you, they're going to die. But they're protecting the hive.
Yep.
And the same thing, the hive is the same thing as the comb.
Yeah. Well, the hive is made up of individual combs.
Okay, so when you was cutting it, was it long like that, or was you cutting it in sections?
I was trying to pull it out in one whole piece, so that the bigger pieces were about like that, about that
Yeah,
tall,
I
and
saw that.
about like that.
But I didn't know how it was shaped in there. Was it long and flat like a bacon pan, or was
No, it hangs.
it hang?
Yeah. Let me get a piece
That's
out
what
here.
we couldn't see, and
So this was the top. It was attached just like that. So I cut this one in half, but it was attached in there just like that. And so they just hung in there, and they maintain what they call bee space. They leave just enough room between them for the bees to crawl between there and take care of the brood and put honey in, stuff like that.
So does all of these little bees that are flying around, are they male and female, or are they male?
Well, most of the worker bees, all of the worker bees are female. So
Okay.
all these bees right here are, that I see, there's one drone right there.
And worker bees are the ones that go out and forage for nectar.
Yeah, they have all kinds of different jobs. So when they're first born or emerge out of their cell, they're like, they clean stuff. They clean their cell up, they'll clean other cells up, clean the honeycomb up, and then they kind of graduate up. Then they'll become nurse bees. They'll take care of the larvae and feed them and things like that. They have guard bees, undertaker bees, so like bees that will drag dead bees out as they die. They have their foragers that go out, and the foraging is the last job that a bee does before it dies. And so it's the older bees that forage.
The ones that go out to get food.
Yep.
Sounds like they got the hardest job.
They do. They actually, sounds kind of cruel, but they actually, a lot of bees die because they basically fly themselves to death. Their wings will end up just breaking down and coming off, and that's usually what kills them in the summer.
It's sad in a way. They work so hard, and then people kill them.
Yep, they are very hard workers.
It's kind of like ants. You've got to respect them.
Yep.
'Cause I like watching ants. I just didn't know anything about bees. I was trying to learn a little bit, and it was like, whoa, it was way over my head.
Yep, there's a lot to learn.
Yeah. Now, the ones that are collecting right there,
Uh-huh.
now why are they collecting there?
Well, I've kind of got them confused. Their entrance was right here, and so I'm standing in front of it, and they're just disoriented. So they're just kind of clustering up there. They don't really know what to do.
They're not sure about you. Should I try this again?
You can. Yep.
I think it might work.
Hey, look at there. We're moving.
We fixed it. Yeah, I don't pay much attention when he's messing with this thing.
Well,
When
you
he first started, I tried to stay out in case he got stuck up there, but
you paid it close enough attention to get me down. I was stranded.
that bucket made it handy, didn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, we looked, well, see, we knew we had bees, but we didn't know we had that big of a deal, you know,
Yeah.
until he got up here and they started coming after him like he was in the bucket.
Yeah. Can't move fast enough in this thing, can you?
Now, and I was gone that day when I had doctor's appointment that day when he kind of freaked out. But, you know, the time that they swarmed inside the house, I had all those bees, and I walked right in the middle of them, and none of them ever stung me.
Yeah, they're it's kind of, so I don't know if you've ever, my dad used to have a pear tree behind his house, and we didn't eat all the pears. A lot of them fell to the ground, and the yellow jackets would really, they'd feed on those pears. They were getting the sugar out of those pears, and you could walk, I mean, the ground would be covered in yellow jackets. You could just walk through the middle of them and they didn't care because they didn't really have anything to protect. You know, they weren't, you know, if you, that same yellow jacket, if you come too close to their nest, they would sting you.
Right.
But because they didn't have anything to protect, they weren't worried with you.
But the day that I found them, that I came home and found them in the house, I found the queen bee in a downstairs window,
Oh yeah?
and all the other bees were upstairs. That was just so weird because she had gotten so distant from this big house. So
Yeah.
she had gotten into the furthest part of the house and died in the windowsill, and the rest of them was upstairs.
Huh.
And
Yeah, that is odd.
Of course, I just thought it was kind of odd, you know, if that's what they were doing, then why did they not follow?
Alright, so we've gave these bees probably 30 minutes, 20-30 minutes to kind of settle down. There's not just a few flying around now. A few's clustered up here on the wall. So I'm going to go up here and kind of finish up the removal. I'm going to vac up what's left, and then we're going to get out of here. Alright folks, that's going to wrap us up here. We still got a few foragers flying around, but it's pretty much impossible to get every bee. So these bees that are left here will dissipate over a couple days and shouldn't give the homeowner any issues. We appreciate you watching our channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please help us out by hitting that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.